Beneath the glow of the moon, Lunar Whisper Tales invites you into a world of wonder, stories to calm the night, and whispers that stay in your heart. Listen and let the moon speak to you.
Grayson Knight, Echoes of the Unknown. I am Grayson Knight. The morning fog clung to the edges of the old mansion as I stopped at its iron gates. The silence was almost oppressive, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves and the distant calls of crows. Shadows from the surrounding forest crept into the yard, mingling with the dim light of dawn. I had been to many abandoned places before, yet there was something about this house, something that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. "Grayson, this place is unlike anything you've seen before," said Lorraine Warren, her voice calm but tinged with concern. She was the one who had brought me here, the experienced paranormal investigator who seemed to understand things I could not. Her eyes, sharp and alert, scanned the mansion as if she could already see the unseen. The family living here may be in danger from forces beyond their comprehension. We must proceed carefully. The mansion loomed before us, its windows like dark, empty eyes staring out at the world. The paint was peeling, the wooden panels warped and splintered. From afar, it already seemed alive, a silent sentinel that had witnessed countless years of sorrow and secrets. My boots crunched against the gravel path as we approached the front door, and a chill ran down my spine. The air was colder here than outside, almost as if the house itself exhaled a frozen breath. Lorraine reached for the door and pushed it open. The hinges groaned in protest, echoing down the long, dark hallway inside. The smell hit me immediately, a mix of mold, decay, and something faintly metallic. My stomach twisted at the scent, but I reminded myself that fear was my ally only if I used it wisely. I stepped over the threshold and the door creaked shut behind us, leaving us in near darkness. "Watch your step," Lorraine whispered. "Pay attention to everything. The smallest detail may tell a story this house wants you to understand." I nodded, gripping my flashlight. Its beam cut through the gloom, revealing walls scarred with age and neglect. Furniture lay in disarray, sheets covering objects that seemed to move in the shadows. The air was thick and heavy, each breath feeling like it carried the weight of 100 years of history. As we moved further into the house, I heard it, a soft thud, then another, rhythmic, deliberate, coming from above. The floorboards groaned under our weight, yet I knew those sounds were not caused by us. My pulse quickened. "Did you hear that?" I asked. Lorraine's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing, only signaling me to follow her up the grand staircase. The steps creaked ominously beneath our feet. Each tread seemed to protest, complaining of our intrusion. The upstairs hallway stretched out like a tunnel, lined with doors that were either closed or slightly ajar. From behind, one of them came a whisper, barely audible, but unmistakable. Words I could not understand, yet the tone was pleading, urgent. I felt a cold gust of air brush past my face as we approached the first room. The door was old and swollen, but Lorraine pushed it open gently. Inside, the air felt heavier, almost viscous, pressing against my chest. My flashlight illuminated the room, a bedroom frozen in time, the bed neatly made though thick dust coated every surface. A rocking chair in the corner moved slightly, as if someone, or something, had just vacated it. "This is where the activity is strongest," Lorraine murmured. "Pay attention to the sensations, the smells, the sounds. Every detail matters." I stepped inside and the door clicked shut behind me. Immediately, a wave of unease washed over me. The room felt alive, charged with energy I could not see but could feel crawling over my skin. The metallic scent grew stronger, and the temperature dropped suddenly, my breath visible in short, misty clouds. The whispers became clearer, almost forming words, but every time I focused, they dissolved into unintelligible murmurs. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. This was not the first time I had faced the unknown, but the intensity here was different, almost sentient. The room seemed to pulse with a life of its own, shadows shifting and stretching in the corners of my vision. I could almost hear the heartbeat of the house, slow and deliberate, matching my own anxious pulse. Suddenly, a loud thump echoed from the far side of the room. The rocking chair spun violently, then stopped. The whispers grew into urgent hisses, sounding like a warning. Lorraine stepped closer, placing a calming hand on my shoulder. "Do not fear it," she said softly. "We are here to observe, to understand. Only then can we act." I nodded, though my mind raced. I reached out to touch the chair, and the temperature of the room plunged further. My fingertips tingled as if tiny sparks ran along my nerves. I withdrew them quickly. This house was testing me, gauging my courage. It wanted to see if I belonged here, if I could face what lay within. Minutes passed in silence, save for the subtle creaks and whispers that surrounded us. The shadows seemed to gather and disperse like smoke, forming shapes that lingered at the edges of my vision. I wanted to look directly, but every instinct screamed not to. Lorraine observed me closely, noting my reactions, guiding me without imposing fear. "This is only the beginning," she said quietly. "The family has suffered long enough. We must be precise. The house is alive, yes, but it responds to presence, to intention. Keep your mind sharp." I swallowed hard and forced myself to focus to steady my nerves. Whatever haunted this place was powerful, but I had to remain calm. I had to be ready for what was to come. The mansion was not merely a house. It was a repository of memories, pain, and something far darker than I had ever encountered. A sudden draft swept through the room, extinguishing my flashlight for a brief moment. In that darkness, I felt it, an unmistakable presence, observing, waiting, perhaps even mocking. My heart pounded, yet I forced myself to breathe evenly. This was what I had come for, to face the unknown, to witness the unseen, to confront whatever forces had claimed this house as their own. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the grime-covered windows, I realized that this was just the start. The mansion had many stories to tell and many secrets to reveal. I, Grayson Knight, would see them all, but only if I could endure the trials to come. I took Lorraine's hand, and together we stepped further into the house. The whispers followed, faint but insistent, a reminder that this place was alive, and that we were not alone. The morning sun had barely broken through the thick fog when Grayson Knight and Lorraine Warren continued their cautious exploration of the mansion. The previous night's encounter had left an unmistakable impression on me. The house was alive, and it was aware of our presence. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind seemed amplified, carrying with it a warning I could not ignore. We entered the main hall, a vast chamber lined with portraits of stern-faced ancestors. Their eyes seemed to follow our movements, their painted gazes cold and unyielding. Dust motes floated in the beams of our flashlights, disturbed by the faint currents of air that seemed to come from nowhere. I could feel it, an almost tangible pressure like invisible hands pressing against my chest. "Grayson, pay attention," Lorraine whispered. "The energy here is strong. Something is trying to communicate, but it's bound by anger and fear. We must listen carefully." No sooner had she finished speaking than a loud, hollow bang echoed from the upper floors. The sound reverberated through the hall, making the walls tremble. My pulse quickened as I followed Lorraine to the grand staircase, which groaned ominously under our weight. At the top of the stairs, we paused in a long corridor lined with doors of varying sizes. From one of the rooms came a low, mournful wail, a voice of despair so real it made my stomach churn. The temperature dropped sharply, my breath visible in short clouds, and the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. Lorraine held up a hand, signaling me to stop. "Do you feel it? That's the presence strongest in this wing. We must be careful. Do not provoke it unnecessarily." We approached the door slowly. I could hear movement inside, subtle yet deliberate, like something pacing. The faint glow of our flashlights revealed shadows flickering across the walls, not matching any object in the room. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay calm. Lorraine pushed the door open gently. The room was small, sparsely furnished, but it seemed charged with a dark energy that pressed against us like water. On the far wall, a cracked mirror reflected our images. But for a moment, I saw something else. A blurred figure standing behind me, vanishing when I turned. "Grayson, stay focused," Lorraine instructed. "It's testing you. Do not panic. As I stepped further in, a cold gust slammed the door behind us. The whispers I had heard before grew louder, more insistent. They circled us, echoing off the walls, forming words I almost recognized but could not quite understand. The room seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting as though alive. Suddenly, objects began to move on their own. A chair slid across the floor, a book fell from the shelf, and the candle flames flickered wildly despite the absence of wind. My heart raced, yet I remembered Lorraine's words. Observation first, reaction second. A shadow detached itself from the corner of the room, forming a human-like silhouette that advanced toward me. I froze, adrenaline flooding every nerve. The figure moved silently but with purpose, its presence overwhelming, suffocating. "Grayson, it's not here to harm you. Yet," Lorraine whispered urgently. "It's warning us. Stand your ground, but remain calm." The shadow hovered near the mirror, then dissipated into the reflection, leaving a chill that lingered like smoke. I realized this was no ordinary haunting. The house contained spirits bound by unfinished business, trapped in a cycle of fear and anger. We spent hours moving through the mansion, documenting every anomaly, every whisper, every shadow that darted at the edge of vision. By late afternoon, fatigue weighed heavily on me, but there was no relief, only anticipation. The house was preparing for something, and we were at the center of it. Lorraine paused at a large arched doorway leading to the basement. "Grayson, this is where the energy is strongest. The family reported the most intense activity here. Be ready for anything. We must proceed slowly and deliberately." The basement door creaked as we pushed it open. The air was thick, stale, carrying a metallic tang that made me gag slightly. Darkness enveloped us completely, and our flashlights barely penetrated the void. From the shadows came a scraping sound, followed by a low, guttural growl. My pulse thundered in my ears as I clutched Lorraine's arm. "Whatever is down here has been trapped too long," she whispered. "It's aware of us now, and it will not remain passive. Keep your focus." Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. A gaunt, pale woman, her eyes black voids of despair. She raised a hand, pointing directly at me. The air froze, and my skin prickled with the sensation of electricity running through it. The whispers reached a crescendo, forming coherent words. "Leave, now, or suffer." I took a cautious step forward, forcing myself to speak. "We're here to help. We mean no harm. Show us what you want." For a moment, the figure hesitated, then vanished into the walls, leaving the basement colder than before. Lorraine exhaled slowly. "This is only the beginning. There is more here than just a single spirit. Grayson, we must stay vigilant. Tonight, the house will reveal more of its secrets." As we ascended the stairs, the sun had nearly set, and the shadows in the mansion grew longer, darker. Every creak, every whisper, every fleeting shadow was a reminder. This place was alive, and it would not allow intruders to leave unchallenged. Standing at the top of the stairs, I looked at Lorraine. "Do we continue tonight?" I asked, my voice tense but determined. "Yes," she replied. "The house will not wait for us to feel ready. If we wish to help the family, we must confront what lies within. Stay sharp, Grayson. The night is only beginning." And with that, we prepared for the long night ahead, knowing that the mansion held secrets darker than I had ever imagined, and that whatever awaited us in its depths would test every ounce of courage I possessed. Night had fully fallen over the mansion, and the shadows inside stretched like living things across the walls and floors. I, Grayson Knight, could feel the weight of the house pressing down on me. Every step I took echoed unnaturally, bouncing off unseen surfaces and carrying whispers that seemed almost intelligible. I tightened my grip on my flashlight and followed Lorraine Warren, who moved with confident precision, her senses finely attuned to the supernatural energy surrounding us. "This is where it's strongest," she whispered, pointing to the center of the mansion's main hall. "The spirit or spirits are aware of us. They know we've come to confront them. Be ready for anything," I nodded, though my heart raced. The air was icy, each breath forming a visible cloud in front of me. The whispers had grown louder, forming a chaotic chorus of voices that seemed to come from every direction at once. I felt as though unseen eyes were watching our every move, judging our courage, our resolve. Suddenly, the floorboards beneath us groaned and a shadow shot across the far wall. A figure, humanoid but grotesque, its movements jerky and unnatural. Its black eyes seemed to pierce through me. I froze, unable to move for a heartbeat as Lorraine extended a calming hand. Focus, Grayson. Fear feeds them. Stay calm. Name your purpose clearly. I exhaled slowly, forcing my mind to center. We are here to bring peace. We will not harm you, but we will not leave until this house is freed. At my words, the figure paused. It seemed to consider my presence, the intent behind my voice. Then, with a sudden, terrifying screech, it lunged toward me, disappearing into the walls just as quickly as it appeared. The temperature dropped further, and frost began forming along the edges of the windows and doors. Lorraine grabbed my arm. It's a test. They're showing you their strength, trying to gauge whether you're worthy of confronting them. We moved cautiously toward the spiral staircase leading to the basement, the epicenter of the house's unrest. Shadows twisted and coiled around us, sometimes forming shapes that mimicked human figures, only to vanish when approached. The whispers grew into a chorus of pleading and warning, overlapping in a cacophony that threatened to overwhelm my senses. Reaching the basement, we discovered the source, an altar, crude but ancient, with symbols etched into the stone floor. Candles burned with unnatural colors, green, violet, and black flames that cast eerie reflections across the walls. At the center of the altar hovered a dark mass, a shapeless entity writhing as if alive, feeding off the energy of the house and the fear of intruders. "This is it," Lorraine whispered. "The heart of darkness. Whatever is bound here has been feeding on the house for generations. It won't release its hold easily." I swallowed hard and stepped forward. "We are here to free this place. Show us what binds you, and we will help you find peace." The mass pulsed violently, and the basement was filled with a cacophony of screams, whispers, and the sound of something scraping across stone. Shadows extended like fingers toward us, and the air itself seemed to thicken. I could feel my strength tested, my fear challenged, yet I forced myself to stand firm, holding Lorraine's gaze. Suddenly, a voice, clearer than any before, cut through the chaos. "Leave or suffer. Forever." Lorraine raised her hand, chanting softly in an ancient tongue. The words carried power, and the shadows recoiled slightly. "We are not here to fight," she said. "We are here to release you. Show us the truth, and peace will follow." The mass shuddered violently. Faces formed briefly in its writhing body, tormented souls trapped in pain, some pleading, some screaming. Their energy was raw, ancient, and overwhelming. I felt a surge of empathy, realizing that the entity was not merely evil. It was a culmination of trapped suffering, bound by fear, anger, and injustice. Together, Lorraine and I approached the altar, speaking words of release, compassion, and forgiveness. Slowly, the mass began to shrink, the shadows retreating. The whispers turned into cries of relief, then silence. The air warmed slightly, the frost melting from the windows. For a moment, nothing moved. Then the faintest whisper, "Thank you." The entity had vanished, leaving the altar empty and the house still, as if it were finally breathing freely for the first time in centuries. Lorraine exhaled, exhausted but satisfied. "It is done. The house is free, and the spirits are released. But Grayson, remember, not all battles end this way. The darkness can return in many forms." I nodded, feeling the weight of the night lift slightly. The mansion was quiet now, peaceful, though its history would always linger in its walls. The experience had tested my courage, my resolve, and my heart. We left the basement and walked through the main hall. Seeing the portraits once stern and cold now somehow softened, the house itself feeling lighter. Outside, the first light of dawn illuminated the estate, the fog lifting to reveal a world that seemed suddenly brighter, freer. I took a deep breath. Grayson Knight had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, but I knew this was only one of many challenges ahead. The supernatural world was vast, unpredictable, and relentless. Yet, in this moment, I felt hope, the knowledge that even the most entrenched darkness could be faced, understood, and released. Tonight, the house had tested me. Tomorrow, who knew what other shadows would rise? The mansion had been quiet for hours, almost unnaturally so. I, Grayson Knight, stood at the threshold of its main hall, staring at the now empty altar in the basement. The spirits had been released, the entity that had haunted the house for generations finally freed. Or so we thought. But Lorraine Warren, ever vigilant, shook her head as if she could sense what I could not. "Grayson, sometimes the remnants linger," she said softly. Her eyes scanned the shadows, noting movements too subtle for me to see. Even after the main presence is gone, traces remain, echoes of fear, anger, and despair. The house is quiet now, but the energy hasn't completely dissipated. I followed her cautiously, our flashlights cutting through the lingering gloom. The mansion felt different, lighter somehow, yet not entirely safe. Every corner held a faint hum, every shadow a subtle movement. Lorraine paused before a door on the far end of the hall. This room, I can feel it. Something small but persistent remains. Inside, the room was modest, a child's bedroom, long abandoned. Toys lay scattered, dusty and broken, and a small wardrobe stood slightly ajar. A chill filled the air, colder than the rest of the house, and the whispers returned, low and barely audible. I strained to hear them, recognizing fragments of voices, laughter, cries, and whispers of names I could not understand. Suddenly, a small wooden horse on the floor rocked violently, as though pushed by invisible hands. The air grew thick, and a faint scent of perfume filled my nostrils, sweet and cloying, unlike anything natural. Lorraine motioned for me to remain calm. "These are residual echoes," she explained. "They are not hostile, but they can be unpredictable. They linger in the memories of the house, imprinted like scars." A soft, childlike voice called out, whispering my name. I froze, heart racing, realizing it wasn't threatening but longing. "Grayson, help me," it said. The sound was faint, almost imperceptible, yet it carried an unmistakable plea. Lorraine placed a hand on my shoulder. "They need acknowledgement, not confrontation. Speak gently. Let them know you are here to help." I knelt and spoke softly. "I'm here. You are safe. We want to help you find peace." For a moment, the air stilled. Then, the toys began to move more calmly, arranging themselves in neat patterns as if listening to my words. A small figure, a girl, translucent and glowing faintly, appeared at the edge of my vision. She reached out with tiny, trembling hands, eyes wide and fearful. I offered my hand, and though she did not physically touch me, the sensation of warmth spread through the room. Lorraine murmured a soft chant, guiding the spirit gently. The girl's form shimmered, growing steadier, her expression softening. "Go, be free," Lorraine whispered. Slowly, the figure faded, leaving the room emptier, yet somehow lighter than before. We moved through the mansion, repeating the process for other residual echoes, small disturbances, subtle presences left behind by centuries of sorrow. Each encounter was different. A shadow that lingered in a corner, a whisper of laughter, a cold gust of wind in an empty room. And each time, our voices, patience, and understanding brought them peace. By midnight, the mansion felt nearly serene. The oppressive energy of the past had mostly dissipated, leaving only faint traces of memory. Yet Lorraine warned me, her gaze grave. "Grayson, what we've done here tonight is important, but it's not the end. Houses like this are anchored to human emotions. Residual spirits, curses, and echoes will always linger. Sometimes they find new hosts, new victims. We must remain vigilant." I nodded, exhausted but resolute. This journey had tested every part of me: courage, empathy, and endurance. And though the mansion had been quieted for now, I knew that other challenges awaited. The supernatural world was vast, unpredictable, and relentless. As we exited the house, the first light of dawn painted the estate in golden hues. The mansion stood silently behind us, imposing yet calm, like a sleeping giant finally at rest. But I could feel it, the subtle echo of life within its walls, a reminder that the past never truly dies. It only waits. "Grayson," Lorraine said, breaking my reverie. "There are more houses, more spirits, more unresolved stories. If we are to continue, we must travel, investigate, and confront the unknown wherever it hides." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. "I'm ready," I said. "Whatever comes next, we face it together." And so, as the sun rose over the forested horizon, I knew that our journey was far from over. The echoes of the past would guide us, teach us, and challenge us. And I, Grayson Knight, would meet them head-on, armed with courage, knowledge, and the resolve to face whatever darkness awaited. Weeks had passed since our encounter at the mansion. I, Grayson Knight, had barely had time to process everything we had faced. Yet the world beyond that estate waited, full of shadows and whispers, and Lorraine Warren's summons could not be ignored. "This is where we are needed next," Lorraine said as we drove through the dense forest roads, approaching a remote village in the northern hills. The locals had reported unexplained disappearances, strange lights, and an oppressive atmosphere that kept outsiders away. "They say the curse began centuries ago," she continued, her voice steady yet tense. "We need to see it with our own eyes." As we entered the village, an eerie silence hung in the air. The narrow lanes were empty, homes shuttered, and a chill wind carried the faint scent of smoke and decay. Every so often, a lantern flickered behind a window, then vanished, leaving no trace of life. The first villager we encountered was Elder Hatun, a frail man with deep lines etched across his face. "Grayson Knight, Lorraine Warren, the curse has returned," he whispered, his voice quivering. "People disappear at night. Children vanish from their beds, and no one dares speak of the forest beyond." Lorraine nodded, her eyes scanning the surroundings. "Show us the locations where the activity is strongest," she instructed. We began at the outskirts of the village where a small grove of twisted trees bordered a stream. The villagers spoke of lights hovering above the water, strange noises, and shadowy figures glimpsed from the corner of the eye. As we approached, the air grew colder and the whispers began again. Soft, teasing, almost beckoning. I shivered as I felt unseen hands brush my shoulders. "Grayson, do you feel that?" Lorraine asked, her voice calm but firm. I nodded, knowing that this was not ordinary wind or wildlife. This was something anchored in ancient fear, a presence feeding off human dread. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the forest, a woman, her eyes dark voids, her face contorted in sorrow and rage. She moved toward the village at a slow, deliberate pace, and every step she took left the ground scorched and frostbitten. I felt a wave of fear, stronger than anything I had experienced at the mansion. "Do not engage physically," Lorraine instructed. "We must understand, not attack. She is bound to the curse. Her pain fuels it." I took a cautious step forward, heart pounding. "We are here to help. Show us what binds you, and we will release you." The spirit paused, tilting her head as if listening. Then she vanished, only to reappear above the stream, where the water churned violently as if alive. Lorraine began her ritual, chanting softly, her hands weaving through the air. Symbols of protection glowed faintly on the ground as we circled the grove, maintaining a barrier of light and energy. The woman's form twisted, her scream piercing the night. Shadows surged from the trees, forming dark tendrils that sought to strike. I braced myself, recalling every lesson learned in the mansion. Courage, clarity, and compassion. I spoke again. "You are not alone. Your pain ends tonight. We are here to release you." The shadows hesitated, then recoiled. The scream softened into a whisper, and for a fleeting moment the woman's face appeared almost human, pleading, fearful, and exhausted. Lorraine continued her incantations, and gradually the dark energy dissipated, the shadows dissolving into harmless wisps. By dawn, the village grove was calm. the oppressive weight lifted. Elder Hatun approached us, tears in his eyes. It is over," he whispered. "The curse? The disappearances? They will stop," Lorraine nodded. "For now, yes, but the past lingers in places like this. The echoes of fear and injustice are never truly gone. They simply wait for the right moment, the right person, or the right opportunity to return." I felt a mixture of relief and unease. The villagers would sleep safely tonight, but the world of shadows was vast. We had won this battle, yet the war against darkness stretched far beyond any single village, mansion, or cursed grove. As we prepared to leave, Lorraine placed a hand on my shoulder. "Grayson, the path ahead is uncertain, but each spirit we release, each curse we confront, strengthens our resolve. We are not just witnesses, we are guardians." I looked toward the rising sun, feeling its warmth and the lingering chill of the night. I was ready. Whatever haunted corners of the world awaited, I would face them. Shadows could test courage, but light could guide us. And I, Grayson Knight, would continue this fight, undaunted, determined, and unafraid. The cursed village behind us, Lorraine and I traveled further north, following reports of a sprawling abandoned estate hidden deep within the mountains. Locals spoke of shadows that moved on their own, of lights flickering in empty rooms, and of a pervasive dread that silenced even the birds. I, Grayson Knight, felt a chill before we even reached the gates. The mansion loomed like a specter, its darkened windows staring down at us like the eyes of a predator. The wind carried whispers, dozens of them, merging into a single, almost coherent voice. "You should not have come." Lorraine's grip tightened on my arm. "This is far worse than anything we've faced. Multiple entities, some bound to centuries-old trauma, are converging here. We must stay together and we must act quickly." We stepped inside. The main hall was vast, decrepit, with cobwebbed chandeliers swaying as though moved by invisible hands. The temperature dropped sharply, freezing our breath mid-air. Shadows twisted along the walls, forming grotesque shapes, some humanoid, others unrecognizable. "Do you feel that?" Lorraine whispered. "They're aware of our presence. They've sensed our power and are gathering. Each one is feeding on the fear of the others, growing stronger." From the far end of the hall, a deep rumble echoed, and the floor beneath our feet trembled. A figure emerged, a woman with hollow eyes draped in tattered garments. Beside her, a shadowy boy hovered, his laughter distorted and chilling. Across the room, a gaunt man with long fingers and a twisted smile lurked, radiating malice. This was no single spirit. This was a convergence of the restless dead, bound together by fear, anger, and dark magic. The house itself seemed to pulse with their collective energy. Lorraine placed her hands together, chanting. Symbols of light glowed faintly beneath our feet, forming a protective circle. "Grayson, focus your energy. Remember what you've learned. Speak to them, don't just resist them. Understanding is our weapon." I stepped forward, voice steady despite my racing heart. "We are here to help. Your suffering ends tonight. You are not alone. Release your anger, your pain, and find peace." The entities surged forward, their combined force pressing against the circle of protection. Shadows collided with our barrier, screeching and wailing, testing our resolve. Objects flew across the room, chairs, vases, shards of glass, but the circle held. The woman with hollow eyes screamed, a sound that pierced through my chest. Why are you here? Leave us be." "I cannot leave while you suffer," I replied, voice firm. "We will guide you to peace. Fight no more." The entities recoiled, but their combined power was overwhelming. I could feel the pressure in the air, the energy of countless tortured souls threatening to crush us. Lorraine's chants grew louder, more commanding, and the protective symbols glowed brighter. Suddenly, I understood. Each entity represented a fragment of a larger curse, bound to this house by tragedy, betrayal, and death. We could not simply banish them individually. We had to confront the source. In the center of the hall, a dark vortex formed, swirling with shadows. The essence of the curse had manifested. a swirling, amorphous mass of pain and malice, pulsing with the combined energy of the restless spirits. "Grayson, this is it," Lorraine said. "The heart of the curse. Everything else is drawn to it. We confront it together, or we risk losing control." I nodded. Taking a deep breath, I stepped into the center of the protective circle, chanting with Lorraine, projecting calm, compassion, and understanding. The vortex writhed, shadows lashing out, but slowly the entities seemed to pause, their attention drawn to the force we projected. "Release your pain. Accept your rest," I shouted, voice carrying over the roar of the spirits. "You do not have to suffer anymore. The curse is ending." One by one, the spirits hesitated, then began to dissolve, their forms becoming light. The hollow-eyed woman's gaze softened, the twisted boy's laughter became gentle, and the gaunt man's grin faded into a peaceful expression. The vortex shrieked one final time, then imploded, leaving a still, silent mansion in its wake. The air warmed, the shadows receded, and the oppressive dread vanished entirely. Lorraine exhaled slowly. "It's done. The curse is broken. But remember, Grayson, places like this exist everywhere. Darkness may rise again, but so long as we stand together, there is hope." I felt exhaustion, relief, and awe. The confrontation had tested every part of me: courage, endurance, and compassion. And though the night had been harrowing, we had emerged victorious. As dawn broke over the mountains, the mansion stood silent and still, finally free. For now, the darkness had been defeated, but the journey was far from over. The supernatural world was vast, and Grayson Knight would face it, ready, unwavering, and unafraid. The sun rose slowly over the mountains, bathing the world in gold. I, Grayson Knight, stood beside Lorraine Warren, gazing at the village, the mansion, and the forests we had traversed over the past weeks. The darkness we had faced, the cursed mansion, the haunted village, the gathering shadows, had tested every part of me. Courage, empathy, endurance, and resolve had been pushed to their limits. Lorraine placed a hand on my shoulder. "You've done well, Grayson. Not everyone could face what you have and remain whole. Darkness can break people, twist them, or consume them entirely. But you've grown stronger." I nodded, still feeling the echoes of the spirits we had released. Some left whispers in my mind, subtle reminders of their gratitude and lingering sorrow. I had realized that the world was not just haunted by evil, but also by pain, loss, and unfinished stories. "Will they ever come back?" I asked. Lorraine's eyes softened. "Some will, some won't, but the lessons they leave behind, that stays. Every spirit, every curse, every shadow teaches us something about the world and ourselves. And it is our duty to learn, to act, and to protect those who cannot protect themselves." We walked through the village one last time. The villagers who had once cowered in fear now greeted us with cautious smiles. Children played near the stream, their laughter light and genuine. Elder Hatun approached, his hands trembling as he spoke. "Thank you," he whispered. "You freed this place. The curse, the shadows, they will trouble us no more." I felt a profound sense of relief, tempered by the awareness that darkness existed everywhere. Our victories were important, but temporary. The supernatural world was vast, unpredictable, and relentless. There would always be more spirits, more curses, more shadows lurking in the corners of reality. Lorraine turned to me, her expression resolute. "Grayson, the journey does not end here. There are other places, other spirits, other mysteries. The work is endless, but so is the hope. Courage and compassion are stronger than fear and anger. Never forget that." I looked toward the horizon, the morning light illuminating the forests, hills, and valleys we had yet to explore. I felt strength, purpose, and determination. I knew the darkness would return, inevitably, but I would face it, prepared, unafraid, and unwavering. As we prepared to leave, I glanced back at the mansion one last time. Silent, still, and finally free. The echoes of the past were now whispers of lessons learned, not threats. I felt the weight of responsibility, but also a sense of accomplishment. "Let's go," I said to Lorraine. "There's more to do, more to see, more to protect." She nodded, a small smile on her lips. "Yes, Grayson Knight, and we will face it together." And so, as we drove away from the village and the mountains, the first rays of dawn casting long shadows behind us, I knew one thing with certainty. The world was full of darkness, but as long as we stood against it, there was always light. The shadows would wait, as they always did, but Grayson Knight would be ready.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video brought a little light to your day and eased away some of life's tired moments. Please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. There's plenty more content like this coming your way.